So we've populated the table using SQL queries. We can actually do that as an admin tool. But if we first go to the code again, you'll see that the first thing we had over here is our user interaction page, which is, well, it's a table with sender, receiver, and the count. And I'll first want to finish this part. So let's go back to the browser and put it over there. The only thing showing now is hello world. So what do we need? We need this user interaction table, which contains IDs and counts. And the first thing we need to do, of course, is change the IDs into names. Names are in the users table. So if you look in the users table down here, you will see name as the field for the username. So what we're going to do is we create a query from user interaction, which I'll call UI. And what you need to do then is join with the users, the sender, so that the user ID is equal to the user interaction sender ID. That's basically it, and almost the same for the receiver, but then it should be R and receiver ID, and instead of selecting everything, we want the S name as sender, R name as receiver, and C count. Preferable order by count, so that's what we're gonna do also. Oh, that's not C, that should be UI. Order by UI count this. And let's try it. There you go. Sender, receiver, and count. So that's the query we're gonna need. Okay? But how do you display a table in PHP? So that's another problem. So first we're gonna get back to the API. I already searched for theme table, and you see that there's a difference with theme table version 4, 6 to 7. And in 7 it's now a little bit different, so you need to read down here what they are saying. But I'm gonna display to you over here. So instead of the hello world, I'll first want a basic table, meaning that I want a header, which is an array containing the header information, sender, receiver, count. And then we have rows, and rows is an array of array. Remember that I can append to an array by putting the straight brackets like this. So this is an array in an array, right? Me, you, 5, and let's just copy that. Let's say me 2, you, and me, you 2, something like that. Just creating some dummy information. There you go. Let's change this a little bit. 3, 7, who cares? 4. There you go. So we have the header, we have the row. That's what we had in Drupal 6. But now it's in one variable. So what you see over here is an associated array containing header. And this contains the fields of header, rows, and so on. So it's a little bit under explained here, but what you actually need now is theme. Let's remove this. Table. That's another thing. There's another theme function that actually just looks at the first variable and then see what to do with it. So it's theme table, and then there's an array where header refers to header and rows refers to is the key of rows. There it is. Okay, this should show a table in Drupal. Let's try it. There you have it. So it's sender, receiver, count, me, you, blah, blah, blah. That's the dummy information. So the header is already okay. What we need to do is we need to change this with this, right? That's what we need to do. So go back to the API, search for database query. There it is. And you'll see that because there's a lot of stuff changed to database query, they tell you like, if it's not a simple query, you should do something different. But in our case, it's gonna be a simple query. So what we need to do is we just need to do db query, give the query, that's it. The query is this, it's on top here. So that's my query. I'm gonna first just put it as string. I like to use double quotes around it, I mean, just for readability. That's what I'm used. And I'll put this over there, so it looks a little bit more like an SQL. Okay, that's my query. Do I need to do anything different? Yes, of course, I need to know how to get the query, right? So the thing is, if you read a bit below, you see that in Drupal 6, what you had to do is you had to run the query, right? It's another way of placeholders, but I don't have a placeholder now. And then you had to do a while, then you had database fetch. Now it seems that it's always an object, so you just do a for each, and the for each will take the object. So the record is the object containing init, title, and create as values in it. So we're gonna take this for each. Gonna put it down here. Oh, there you go. Oh, I still need to go run the query, so that's the result here is equal to db query, the query, the string, hop. Yeah, well, normally you should actually have two white spaces according to yeah, well, I'm gonna delete it anyway. So instead of this array, what do we need? We need to replace it with the record part. Sender receiver. Oh. And the count. There you go. So this is inside my for each. Remember, like I did with the first exercise, mostly they always put the brackets, but because there's only one, don't put it. Okay, so I guess this should be exactly the same, so let's try it now. There you go. That's what we need. Okay, oh yeah, I've got a title now. So the other thing I want to do is I'm gonna add two more. Or let's do three more functions. The first thing I want to do is be able to restrict a user interactions by, for example, just one person. So this is the user ID behind it. That's what we're gonna need to work with then. So that's actually just on the same query, but now I actually need to have the reload the hook menu. So I'm gonna do some updates to the hook menu. So that means that I need to flush the cache, and I'm going to create 3 other pages. From there you go. Okay, so the first was use interaction, the other is going to be self interaction. Page, let's just call it page 2. Why not? It's not a good thing, but that doesn't matter. And the third one I'm gonna make is actually related to what's in the info file. In the info file I told there was an admin part, and this admin will actually be a button to calculate the, well, to create a table, right? The first time you want to create a table. So that's gonna be my path, right? And maybe, you know what, why don't we put this in tutorial? So I need to change the paths. So the first time it will actually don't change the path because I'm not running the flush yet. So I'm going to just do that. Oop, and then so I flushed it. So now I expect that this actually will work. Okie dokie. So let's see if that works. Yep. Oh. Okay, I don't have a title anymore. Somewhere I changed stuff and deleted the title, so I'm gonna add the title again. So the T you use for title is actually for translation. User interaction. That's the title over here. And that's gonna be self interaction, and that's user interaction admin. Okay. Page 3, and I'll just call that page 3. I mean, I know that's not a good naming, right? But just a tutorial. So we'll have function page 2, something in it, and page 3, something in it. Okay. Let's just return solve stuff, solve interaction, and then I'll have admin. So I just create the 3 different tables. So if I reload it, there's a table again. Remember that this only works because I actually have this flush over there, right? So as soon as I unmark the flush, the user menu won't be loaded anymore. If you want to see that again, look at one of the previous screencasts. Okay. So I've got 3 more tabs. The one is self interaction, just showing nothing, it's dummy information now, right? Just put the database in front. And another one which is like this. Oh, normally, if I'm not mistaken, if you open to the menu now, you should actually see under your fields that there's also the configuration. See, and this, if you look down below in the left corner, you see the same path as over here. You see, admin config use interaction, and that's actually the same one we've mentioned in the .info file. So if you click on this, we get there too. So at this moment, there's just admin written over there because that's the part we have over here, admin, right? Let me think about that, because for the admin part, what we actually want is a button that does something. So, but let's first go back to the self interaction. So the self interaction is a table just like the user interaction, but the difference is that you just count the parts where sender and receiver are the same. So you can do that in the database again. So we had this query already. I'm going to edit it. And so because now the sender and receiver will be the same, we actually only need one join with user interaction because there will only be a sender. Right, so I don't actually need all this. So let me think. Yes, like this. From user interaction. So the S is equal to this, and the sender, well, let me just call that U now because there's no sender or receiver. User ID is equal to sender, and the user ID is equal to receiver. Okay, let's try that. You see? So those are all people who actually responded to themselves. So that's so it happened 3 times. The question is that actually significant difference between how often the person has created a comment, and therefore we will need to do another calculation. But first, let's just take this query and put it in here. Let me think. So it's more or less the same as what we have over here. So I'm just going to copy this and put this in version 2, but then I'm going to take this select. I mean, the order by is not really needed now, but I'll just keep it there. So from user ID, inner join with the users. Yeah, okay, and this, and actually, well, you'll see why I don't put the order by. It's not gonna be, well, I'll just keep it there. Who knows? We'll see right away. The query, we run it, and if we put it like this, we get sender. Let me think. So it's sender. No, now it's just name. Then the second thing is count. Okay, let's call the second one count. We're gonna have a third one I'll call relative, which should be a percent sign telling me how often that person has referred to itself. So we have sender, now there's just a name here, name, and the second part is just the count. So there's no receiver, just count. Now the problem is, this is our first query, and we want to find a way to actually change the query, the answers later on. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of giving no key, I'm gonna give the name as a key. Record name. Why? Because that allows me to actually check how often the person created a comment. How do you do that? Well, you go to query, right? You say select everything, or no, select count from comment, and we're gonna order by the, let me think, user ID. So in comments, there's a user ID, and I'm just gonna group everything so I can see how often a certain user, so I'll actually need the user ID, and then I count how often he created a comment. And then we get something like, oh, nothing. Oh, it's not order by, it's group by. My mistake. Group by go. So what you see now is that user 1 has posted 25 comments. Some have posted more, some have posted less. But this is exactly information we need. The thing is that I have the user ID here, but if I go back to my code, I only had the name over here. So you know what? I'm actually going to keep the user ID too, UID, next to the name, and I'm gonna make sure that that's the user ID. Okie dokie. So that's the second query. Select from group by. Okay, that's something I need to put over here. So I kind of need again this query, this part and this part, but now I'm gonna change the query over there. Oh, almost making a mistake. You should in Drupal have brackets between the tables. So I'll do that right away. So the from should actually look like this. Same over here. And over here. So it works, but if they tell you you have to do it, there's probably a reason. Like this. Okay. Group by. And because I have the user ID again, I can actually just do just the same as before. So let me make sure that brackets are there too. So again, it's rows with this user ID. And now I'm not going to assign. Now I'm going to append. So the last thing, the relative part is going to be appended. And what do I append? I just append one value. But what is the value? So how do you count the relative? Well, you know what? I'm going to do that in separate parts. So I'm going to need to open body here. Let's call it relative. So how do you create something relative? We're gonna take that count and then divide it by that number, something like that. Okay, so how do you take that one number? You take rows user ID. Hop. Oh. Now I didn't give it a name, so you know what? It's gonna be better that I give keys over here too. So I just gave it two keys, so I can actually grab them over here. I have the user ID, so I know it's this array, but now I also want the count. So that's the value I had over here. Like if you count, before we had something like that it was counted 3 times. That's our 3 over here. So 3 out of, so I guess I can just do this. The one we have over here now, which is user ID, and maybe I should call the count as all something. So I can over here say record all. And then over here I want to have it as a round value. But of course then I need to multiply it with 100. Let me think. Isn't it the other way around? I think it's the other way around. No, wait. Smaller number divided by bigger number. Yes. Yes. Let's try it. Not sure if I did everything right, but we're gonna try. Oh no, line 77. Unexpected. Unexpected. Oh yeah, right. Okay, I've got this round over here, and of course this symbol had to be a string. And then we got another error. What is it saying? All. Can't I do that? Let's try it. Nope, I can't. That's stupid. So what's the name of it? Count star. So I can't call it all. Okay, if I can't call it all, I can't call it all. So I'll do it count. Should I count, or maybe relative, or comments? I'll just call it comments. There you go. See, wasn't sure. I tried the SQL. Back to my. Okay, where am I? Nope. Ah, there I am. Okay, try this again. Ooh, undefined index 0. So I'm in page 2, that's this one. On line 76. Ah, yeah, of course. I mean, there are, of course, more possibilities than... so I do the for each, and then I try to get a record, but maybe that record doesn't exist, right? That's what I'm getting over here. It's already showing stuff, right? See, so it is working. So this is actually a minor bug, let's say. But the thing I had to do is check if that exists. So what I can do is set. So I can do that just because I have to do it for all of the for eaches. I just do the if here is set. If this is set, well, do this. Okay, that's not good. Ah. Again, there you go, right? So now you see, you count it 3 times, but it's actually 10% of the time, right? So that's a bit more than the rest. Okay, that's our self interaction. So now we have 2 pages, right? We have the user interaction, we have the self interaction. Oh yeah, the user interaction, I wanted to be able to do something like ask only user ID 6, right? So how do I do that? Therefore, I'll go back to looking at hook menu, search, come on, and there it is. Page argument. What it says, like, I want argument 1. Argument 1 is, in this case, ABC. And then it gives you argument 2. So what I'm going to do over here is copy this part. and put it inside my menu. So next to the page callback, I have a page argument. When you're debugging, make sure that you see what you're doing. So let's see what you get when you have if you have a user ID or not. So I'll just display it and you'll see what happens. So, oh, line 19, 19. Oh yeah, forgot. Come on. Missing argument 1. Page. So, okay, because the bugs I just reloaded, and you see that my first one I get is user interaction. So what I actually want is 2, right? 2, save. And that's when there is a 2. Now, if there's no 2, okay, so it's 6, right? That's exactly what I want. If there's none, let's first try 3 because I've got the impression that I need to reload it twice. No, okay. 3, so if I have none, does it give me an error? It's just show me nothing. Okay, that's okay. The thing you need to figure out then is to see if this actually is a number. So let's search PHP is number is numeric. That's how it's called. It's numeric. Or int. I think numeric is also. I'm gonna take the numeric. Int, that it really needs to be an int. In our case, it can actually be a string. So I'll need to check if there is a string or not. So I'm gonna put this over here. Is numeric user ID? If that's the case, you actually want to change this select. Okay. So I need to make a function of it. If is numeric, I'm gonna change this. So let me first just break up the query, because if you want to have a where, like I said, user ID was equal to 6. So if I do that on the SQL, so I can close this. If I do this on the SQL, you need to see that the where needs to be before the order by. Where UID, as UID is equal to 6, or R UID is equal to 6. That's what I want. Does it work? Made a mistake somewhere? Ah, yeah, of course, all the package. You don't want the package in your SQL. Okay, it's working, but the 6 doesn't have one. Should have tried the self-interaction, see which one had one or not. Can I just get back to it? So this is the part I need to add, right? At the right place. So I'm gonna just say if it is numeric, I'm gonna add it to the query. But first of all, okay, I'm doing too many things at the same time. That's always dangerous. First of all, I need to make sure that this query, this part is added later on. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove it over here, and I'm gonna append it over there. You can actually append by putting just dot equal to, like this. So it's the same as before, but now if I check if this is numeric, I'll also append that part. There you go. So I do the inner join. If it is numeric, I also put the numeric in it, and else I do the query. Normally they ask you to use placeholders. Now in my case, I'm just gonna for the readability, keep it like this. So I put the user ID, you give over here. I'm gonna put them in here. Okay. So back to the user interaction table. Pros. Let's see where user ID is equal to 1. That should be good. Let's try that out. So where user ID is equal to 1. That should be the admin. Ooh. Name, user interaction. Where, oh, you see this? No white space. Order by, that's okay, but I didn't have a white space over there. Make sure that we have white spaces. Never have to view. Okay, so you see it's 1. So I expect on the left side to have admin or on the right side to have admin. And I'm creating this case for a special case with the views I want to do later on. So now you see all the admins, only when there is an admin in there. So that's why or how you can actually use the page argument. So we've seen page argument, we've seen with the self interaction how you can actually put more information into those queries. The last thing I want to do is show you a small admin part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it. I'm going to get back to my basic page, and there is an example for form API, 10 steps for form API. I'm going to use that now to create a small stupid submit button. With the submit button, so the first thing I want to have is a simply submit button. So the page callback is going to be a little bit different. You see a page callback to my module. Oh, there it is. So you got Drupal get form. Instead of like calling my module form, which is this function that just contains one function called Drupal form, you can actually put Drupal form over there. And as the access argument, you then need to give the name of your form element. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the page callback, call it the Drupal get form. So I'm gonna get back to the code. So page callback, that's on top here. That's the admin part, right? As the page callback, I'm not gonna call user interaction page 3. I'm gonna call Drupal get form. And instead of the page argument equal to 2, I'm gonna give something like my form, right? So I can call that whatever I want. So I'm gonna call that uInteraction form over here, uInteraction form. I'm gonna save that. So that means that there needs to be a uInteraction form, which is instead of this page 3, right? And how does a form look? It looks like this. You create a type text field and a type submit. We only need the type submit, so I'm just going to take this part and put it in there. It gets a variable called form state, so I need to have that here too. And I'm going to explain you right away a little bit more about the forms. Let me think. Submit, I'll call this populate. I'll just call it populate table. Okay, so that's what I want to do over here. I'm gonna save this. To make this work, I'll first need to clear the cache. So I'll do it over here now. And go back to this. And I expect to see a button here, let's hope. There it is, populate the table, right? So it seems almost the same, so I'll go back to the form here. What you see is that it also takes again a string, and that string again is going to become a function. But the difference is that this actually is, it looks more like a hook. You can actually, if you want to learn more about form API in the tutorials of Drupal. So what we need to do next is validate. So you can validate the handler and you can submit the handler. We're not going to validate because there's no input. You just push the button or you don't push the button. But when you submit the button, that's this part. Yes. So what you see is you have the my module, my form, and then you have the same, but you have validate and you have submit. So it looks like, so the name of your form works like a hook, right? So this is like a hook. I hope that clarifies a little bit. So the thing you want to do is over here just do a Drupal set message, tell them that you have updated the database or something. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna put in the submit version. So you need more or less, it's also a form and form state, so I can just take this. Also form, there you go, and then close it, and then I'll just do Drupal set message created the, or sorry, populated the user interaction table. That's what we want to do, okay? So that's what needs to happen over here, okay? So, okay, let's first just save that. And so at this moment, nothing should happen except that I should see this populate message. Oh no, 102. What is it saying? Cannot redeclare. Oh yeah, of course. Forgot to call it submit. Populated the user interaction table. It didn't do anything yet, right? I just calling it. It didn't do it. So what we actually need to do is remember those two functions, insert into user, blah, blah, blah. Those two, well, oh, I now gonna take those and put them in here. That's basically what I want to do. I'm gonna do twice an insert. Now, if you go to Drupal, they tell you like you should use the insert table, but at this moment it's using this kind of SQLs won't work. So I'm just gonna do a DB query, and put this all stuff in there. Remember to make sure that you put the brackets around it. Hop. Okay, and then the on duplicate, yep, like this, and that's it. So that's the first, then the second, I hate those steps. Hop, hop, go, almost done. Okay, so that's when we populate it, but see that this does a duplicate, so as soon as you have done some stuff, this will actually keep so the first thing I actually really want to do is clear the database. So let's go to DB query. Wait, where are my API? Okay. If I was on DB query, I saw something about deleting. There it is. So how do you do it? You say db delete node conditions, no, just execute. And will this delete or will this empty? Activates database to from which to delete. Allows the user to different database service using blah, 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 blah. So I guess from nodes where, okay, so this should work. Let's just do that. So I'll have db date. I'll have this over here. The user interaction table. And the only thing I'm gonna do is run the execute. So this is actually a function inside an object. So until now we've used objects to get to the variables. This is a function inside an object. I'm not gonna tell too much about object-oriented programming here. You know what? Let's just first try to see if we can delete the database. Make sure that this works. So I'm gonna save this. Gonna back to my code. Oh no, over here. So at this moment, the user interaction table has information, right? So if I now push this button, I expect that it should be empty. You see? If I click on it, it gives this cross, meaning that there's nothing in it. So the database delete works. And now that the database delete works, let's try our query and hope for the best. Did I save? Yes. Populate the table and try again. Uh-oh, I had to click on user interactions. There it is. So you see, it's populated. So at this moment, my my small module allows me to use a user interface to populate the table. It has a user interaction, which I can also use an argument with, right? So I can get them all, or I can have an argument. And there's a self interaction that shows you relatively, well, it's just another version than user interaction. So I'm gonna quit here because you could actually do a lot more optimization of the database table. But what's going to be more interesting is to, instead of doing this by creating the table in the code, we're going to work with the views. That's going to be the next screencast.